So we're joined by Natasha Etchman, aka Tash Invests, who has built a platform sharing financial information and her journey across social media, in particular Instagram and TikTok. If you want to listen to an episode that we did with Tash, head back in the Get Started Investing feed. It was awesome to hear about her journey in more detail. But Tash, welcome back.
Thank you. So excited to be back.
So we want to kick off with how and why did you get started investing?
How? I just Googled lots of stuff and hoped for the best, kind of.
Nice.
Why? I've always been interested in like saving to travel and wanting to make more money, but I also wanted to work in the healthcare industry. So investing always seemed like a way to make money and do both. I just bought 4 units of IVV, which is very fun. But yeah, it was just from lots of Googling and research, I guess, and just hoping for the best, really.
What was IVV?
An S&P 500 index.
Nice. And you've just been dollar costing into that?
No, I never actually bought IVV again. So I bought $1,000 worth and just watched it for a bit to see what would happen. I buy other ETFs now, but yeah, just bought 4 and watched it, I guess.
Nice. And I guess you've been buying into ETFs quite frequently. Have you moved on to buy individual stocks, or is the strategy now still just plug away ETFs?
No, still just ETFs. I don't really like watching individual stocks or researching them that much. I want something really easy. So I just invest $1,000 a time into ETFs when I have the money. And yeah, it's been growing pretty well.
Nice. So when we last spoke, you were following the FIRE movement, or the concept of it, and dollar cost averaging into stocks and sort of wanting to build that retirement early sort of fund. You've since been able to take a couple of months off work and travel around the country, which has been awesome. Can you just talk us through that? You've obviously been able to feel sort of financially stable off the back of the investing that you've done.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't a choice, but back when I met you guys in March, my plan was to do 8 weeks prac at uni, go back to my full-time job, which paid really well for a few months, do another 8 weeks prac, graduate, be an OT. But I was a bit sick of work and getting a bit burnt out. So I was like, I'll just go do a snow season. So I quit my job and moved over to the snow, which was great for 2 months before lockdowns happened. And then I lost my snow job and was just kind of stuck in New South Wales with border closures. But I was in a very privileged position compared to most people because I have a positively geared property, so I had money coming from that. I have dividends. I was still making money from shares anyway. So it worked out really well. So I just went a month in Merimbula, went up to Byron Bay, and now I'm in Sydney. So it's been incredible having that basis to be able to travel around with.
I think it may not be the retire early part of FIRE, but it's definitely the financial independence part of FIRE.
Yeah, definitely being able to have a break. And like having an emergency fund as well. I went over with like 20 grand in savings, being like, if I need this, I need it. But yeah, it's worked out really well having that security.
And so you've come from a position where you probably had a more reliable paycheck than you do at the moment.
Yes.
And from that, you could have been investing quite regularly into the markets, I would assume. Has what's happened over the last few months changed how you think about investing? You obviously can't, I assume, be investing as regularly as you were before.
Yeah, so I was really, before my mindset was just like work as much as possible, invest as much as possible, and then I can kind of enjoy it a bit later on. But having the break has been really interesting to see that you don't need to burn yourself out completely to reach your goals, and like life is to be enjoyed as well. So I was working, my job was we did 56-hour weeks because we were doing sleep shifts as well. I was also doing overtime. Versus now I was like working in the snow, working 6-hour days, like going snowboarding every day. And it was like a much happier life, being like, cool, I work an easy job that's not emotionally taxing. I go snowboarding and I can still save a little bit of money on the side. So yeah, if I didn't do like the work beforehand, I wouldn't have been in this position. But seeing the both sides of it's been really interesting.
So if you think back to your early days, trying to figure out the stock market, the property market, all of that, what were some of the biggest barriers you found to getting started?
The information is made to seem really complex when it's really not. Like investing in index funds and ETFs is actually quite simple, but finding really simple information is really hard. So I think you need a lot of money, you probably need a finance degree, and only like fancy people in business suits can invest, but that's like not even the case at all. It's actually really simple. So just the myth that it's hard, but yeah, and like finding accessible information, definitely.
Yeah. Well, and I think you deserve a lot of credit for making a lot of that information accessible. So at Tash Invests, if people are feeling overwhelmed. On that theme of, it being overwhelming and confusing, were there any myths or were there any beliefs you had about investing that you've since realised you were just completely wrong about?
Yeah, you need a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like I saw a lot of the minimums initially was like, oh, you need 10K to invest in like the Vanguard funds. Whereas like you can actually put $5 into Spaceship or Raise. You can save up and like invest into an ETF because like Perla has brokerage free ones, Superhero has brokerage free ones. There's so many other options and you don't need that much money. And you also don't need a finance degree as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a common one that has been coming through. But I also think it's a great time now that, and we talk about this a lot on the show, that, it's never been easier to actually get started investing through those apps like Raise and Spaceship and those sorts of things. So gone is the excuse that you don't have enough money to get started.
And time as well, like you look at it and it looks really complex and you have like that image of the guy, like the trader sitting there watching all like the charts of the 10 like screens, when really it's not like that. You can set it up and never look at it ever again and it does really well.
Yeah, love to hear it. So Tash, you said in the first episode that you frantically searched Google and just hope for the best, but I'm sure there's been better resources along the way. So what have been some of the key resources you've used to get to this point on your investing journey?
I think initially I started off with all the fun books everyone talks about, like Barefoot Investor, which isn't really that relevant to me, or there's the ASIC Money Smart website, which I found really helpful, and also just like watching YouTube videos and looking at Instagrams of multiple different people to see how everyone invests. There's no like one really good source of information. Well, your book is doing really well at filling the space in the Australian market, I guess. Little plug there.
Nice.
Yeah. It's probably the book everyone's been asking for. But yeah, just like doing one thing at a time, looking at ASIC's website. I really liked looking at super funds and their asset allocation, because initially it was really hard to find Australian specific information on what to actually buy and like what to do within like Australian and international shares. So looking at what funds hold and seeing like how you can apply that to your situation as well was always really helpful.
Yeah, nice.
I think that's a great one there, Tash. There's so much information there on what the experts are doing, what the professionals are doing, and looking at them and borrowing their ideas is great. When we spoke in an earlier episode, you also mentioned you'd entered the property market and you'd set up an emergency fund. So I guess outside of just investing, it seems like you have a really good basis of like broader financial knowledge. Were there any resources that really helped you understand personal finance, the property market, stuff like that?
I always forget that one. My parents, like I grew up talking about money, so that's what they need, like not the need, but the want to buy a property came from, because my parents invested in property, my grandparents invested in property. We grew up planning holidays together. We grew up saying you couldn't have Foxtel because you need the money for something else, and budgeting together. So yeah, all of that came from my family initially and like closer friends. Yeah, always forget that one.
I think
that's not really like a good recommendation. Like go talk to your dad. Good luck.
Yeah, we'll put Tash's parents' details in the show notes. Hit them up. But I think that's such an important one. Like, Bryce's family, Bryce's dad and got him investing at like the age of 5 with his pocket money. Like, whereas I just didn't grow up in that household. And I think like normalizing those conversations around money is so important. Because like I've since spoken to my mum about it, and she was like, yeah, when I grew up, there were 3 things you didn't talk about, like money, politics, and religion. And it was like taboo to talk about money.
Money, politics, and sex, isn't that the third one?
No, money, politics, and religion. Sex was fine to talk about.
No money though.
But now it's like you can just see the difference that like kids and like young teenagers knowing about money and getting started early, how much difference that can make in your life.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good one. Shout out to your parents.
Yeah, I definitely got to them for discussing mortgage interest rates when I was like in high school. Great.
Yeah, it may not be the most
stuff.
engaging conversation, but it's worth it.
The best one is like spinning. We had like the Lazy Susan, and we put holidays with different budgets and spin and try and work out how much they would cost, and have to like plan that as a family and be like, what are we going to cut down on? So yeah, it's a good one. Yeah.
Awesome. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I feel there's like probably a kit that we could make like helping parents talk to their kids about money. Yeah,
activities and
Yeah.
So
I should edit that bit out and take that off.
Yeah. Business idea.
Not bad.
Yeah, and I can sit in one spot long enough.
Well, Tash, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. Thank you for coming in. And if anyone wants to follow what you're doing, you're across most of the main social channels at Tash Invests.
Yes, mostly Instagram and TikTok. But yeah, thanks so much for having me.
No worries. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Tash.
Yeah, thanks.